Denmark, the world's oldest kingdom and Europe's fairy tale nation. Cobbled streets, castles and manor houses, beautiful parks with 800-year-old trees. The past intertwines with the present. Cycling paths, walking streets, modern building concepts, an efficient and highly effective transportation system, trains that arrive on time and drive straight onto ferries that connect the islands of Funen and Sealand with Jutland on the European mainland, the three land masses that comprise Denmark. The roads are excellent and car rentals available. Copenhagen is just a few minutes' drive from the airport, and in no time at all you'll be indulging in the famous Danish smorgasbords, drinking aquavit and Danish beer, eating the excellent hot and spicy sausages from roadside stands. Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen is indeed the main attraction for visitors to Denmark, with the statue of its famous little mermaid reclining in the harbour, colourful Tivoli gardens, and the great Kronborg and Frederiksborg castles. These days, tourists venture further afield, to Billund in search of Legoland, and Odense, the birthplace of Hans Christian Andersen. In fact, you'll find Denmark's rich history and culture in most smaller cities, including Aalborg in Jutland. Here, the cathedral, dating from 1100, is the oldest building, and lining the old town's cobbled streets are 400-year-old houses and shops, beautifully restored. If you take the time to ask, you'll usually find an interesting story. In 1624, merchant Jens Spies upset the local nobility when he built this elaborate house. They treated him with such contempt that he embellished the walls with meaningful little figures. This one is poking its tongue out at the town hall. Over 200 years ago, this hotel was a winter residence for a brigadier returned from India.
And there's a quite rude story about him as a person, because whenever the peasants in his district married, he obtained the third right for the first night with the bride. Right. So the day he died, all the church bells in Aalborg rang. All the peasants came to the funeral to make sure that he was really dead and that he was going down.
Aalborg is a university town, and that means a lively nightlife in its many clubs and discos. And for the amateur archaeologist, the outskirts of the town have yet another treat in store.
We have always known that there was something hidden in the sand. You know, it was covered with sand up to 4 meters. We couldn't see the stones as you can see them today. But during the last World War, we had German soldiers up there, and they found some big stones, and they didn't know what it was. And then after the war, in 1952, we started to excavate, and it took 6 years. They took 50,000 cubic meter sand away from the hill, and we found about 700 graves, and not just graves, but also a settlement. And the first real Viking field was also found up there.
In the year 1050, a farmer was ploughing this field when a sandstorm arrived. His horse's footprints and the furrows were filled with sand, and now years later give testimony to his existence. Within these rings, one Viking could challenge another to fight to the death.
They were triangles and oval and round, and the real ship-shaped graves, that was the real Viking graves. They should be buried in a ship because, and it was the same if it was a real ship or a stone ship, they could sail anyway. The oldest ships, they were pointing to the west because the first Vikings went to England and Ireland. Later, they turned their ships so that they could sail south to France and to the Mediterranean. And the first Vikings came to Mallorca, a little island, even to Canada. But we found a coin up here from 1920, and it was made in Tashkent by the Chinese border. And that means that the Vikings had a trade route all the way from Norway and down to Denmark, Germany, Poland, Sweden, and all the way by the Russian rivers to China. In each of the graves was found a comb, and up here on the hills was found a bathhouse about 5 meters long, and it was just like a sauna. And it is told that the English women liked the Vikings very much because they washed themselves every Saturday, if it was necessary or not. But here they used the sauna also in another way. If they had visitors they did not like, they took them into the sauna, closed the door and boiled them.
For more information, visit our website on topoftheworld.net.